make sure you download that free Kettlebell Code ebook. We offer all the information that I'm giving you. We offer it in a condensed ebook, 100% free. It's called the Kettlebell Code, and you can download it right now in the first link in the description. I'm an absolute newbie looking to train progressively for stronger legs for kickboxing. What do you recommend? The basics. Once I learned that concept that I'm about to tell you right now, I fully understood the major difference. And I read a couple of books about it. I really went into a deep dive, talked to a biomechanist, one of the most legendary ones. Unfortunately, he passed a couple of years ago. His name is Dr. Michael Yessis. He was the guy who translated Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky's work when the Soviet Union broke down and Dr. Verkhoshansky traveled to the US. This is when Dr. Michael Yessis came in and he was working with him closely. The Soviet sports literature, you have 4 phases of training. Phase number 1 is GPP. And GPP stands for General Physical Preparedness. And let's just assume we have an example. We have a cyclist or a boxer or an MMA. It doesn't matter. You just have somebody who wants to specialize in a sport, right? Because at the end of the day, if you want to get good at your sport, you have to specialize. So you start phase 1. That's GPP. General Physical Preparedness. This is where I would see the kettlebell. Because GPP means you want to elevate all aspects of physical qualities as much as possible. You want to get stronger. You want to improve your endurance, you want to improve your mobility, you want to improve your coordination, and you want to get everything into sync. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to improve your general fitness? Because in phase 2 comes the special preparatory phase. So in SPP phase, that's part number 2, this is where you then start preparing for your sport. And this is where you learn the moves, the kicks, the, I don't know, roundhouse and high kicks, low kicks, guarding, right? And by the way, this is where I would see most definitely the kettlebell being a very solid tool. Hence, I do understand where the martial artists come from, because with kettlebell training, you always rack kettlebells like this, right? Close to the body. And what does this resemble? And I just saw Joe Louis. He had an exercise too. Make sure you're always able to get into a guard. He said that's a major issue with bodybuilders. If you have too big of a muscle, you can't go into a solid guard like this. And so he said you should always be able to do this. And where do you learn this, especially with weights? Kettlebell training. So this is where I see lots of carryover. So I would have you do for GPP phase, if I was your coach, I would say, all right, some running, some cross-country skiing, some rowing, bringing up your endurance. Then I would say, let's bring up your strength endurance with some snatches, with some cleans, with some swings, with some ballistic exercises. Hey, and let's bring up your explosive strengths with some jerks, with some double half snatch. And then let's bring up your strength with some squats, some presses, some farmer's carries. So that would be my plan on a very broad perspective. If I was your strength coach. And then in phase 2, I would give the reins over to the special coach or the next coach, which is the guy who then teaches you the kickboxing, right? And so once you're on an SPP, you then minimize your GPP because now you're focusing on SPP. And then in phase 3, here comes the competitive period. Let's say you have a fight in 3 months. So then you prepare for that fight. And then in the competitive period, you then get used to the fighting. You get used to the competitive environment. So it's probably, I don't know, if it's kickboxing, it's much more sparring. It's maybe even harder punches. I don't know what that entails, but you get what I'm saying. In the competitive period, no more GPP. No nothing. You just get used to the fighting. And then after the fight, you have post-competitive phase. This is where you do something completely different. You take ballet classes, for example, right? And so what I just explained to you was the Soviet method. Georgia, in Bulgaria, in all these Eastern Bloc nations and countries, they still prepare athletes like this. And look at the results that they get. Look at Lasha. His clean and jerk, 200 and what? 67? His snatch, mind you, his snatch was 221. I'm talking about Olympic weightlifting. I think 221. And think about this. Lasha was snatching 221 kilograms, right? He dropped the barbell down. And I think it was a world record. I'm not 100% sure. And they could leave the bar like it was for the next guys to do clean and jerk. How crazy is that? That guy just snatched my clean and jerk. Imagine how powerful Lasha really is. And Carlos Nazar, Lu Xiaoyan, look at these guys. And look at how they prepare. Look at how they train. And this is where I get the information from. This is where I draw conclusions and parables to what I do and to what the kettlebell sport world does. I train BJJ maybe 3 to 4 times a week. What exercises, volume would you recommend to stick to it? Do you think kettlebell only program would be enough to supplement BJJ? One of the core principles that you need in BJJ, and by the way, that's one of the reasons why the martial artists love it, is because the kettlebell requires you to understand tension and relaxation, right? So you have to understand when to contract, you have to understand when to relax, right? And I think there's a similar concept in BJJ. So kettlebells most definitely can help you. And I would, experiment. Say, all right, again, in your case, SPP is BJJ. And if you do it competitively, listen to your coach, what he tells you. I would listen to my coach all day, every day if I was in a competition. Just like I listened to Dennis. He said, this is what you got to do. I listened to Steve Carter. I listened to Alexander Khostov. They told me what to do, so I do it, right? I don't question it, not a second. It's supposed to be the tide that lifts all boats of physical qualities. This is what the kettlebell is, so use it like this.
And just in case if you're wondering what kind of kettlebell I'm using, it's the Pro Kettlebell by my friend Nikolai Pukhlov, proudly made in the USA. Check the link in the description to get your Pro Kettlebell right now. And don't forget to use our code LEBE to get 10% off your next purchase.
Here's the next thing that you have to do. Clean and press that like and subscribe button. Share with a friend who's also interested in kettlebells. And if you made it this far, download my free ebook in the first link in the description called the Kettlebell Code. If you're over 40, 50, or 60, you don't have a lot of time, but you still want to take care of your fitness and you don't want to drive to the gym, the kettlebell is the perfect solution for you. So let me help you get started. 100% free, 16 pages, a juicy ebook that's going to help you get started with kettlebell. So download it right now in the first link in the description or in the pinned comment.